Yeah, can you see me and hear me as well?
Absolutely. Jay, how we doing? How's life?
Uh, it's good. It's been good. How about you?
I've been great, man. Look, co-founder of Lychee Labs. Give us a little flavor of what you're building.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, the pitch for Lychee Labs is really that I come from a gaming background, which is what we're going to be diving into. But my thesis is essentially the best way to build consumer products or build products really is to add an element of play in them. Because
Mhm.
not only does that make it more engaging and fun for everyone, it keeps you coming back for more. So, our whole hypothesis is that we want to digitalize the human-computer experience through playful products. And that's essentially what we're looking to build.
All right, give me some context on the background then. Gaming is obviously a very big space. What are we building? Like GPUs? Is that what the background
No,
is in?
no, no,
But
no, no, no.
or is it like I played GTA for 12 hours a day?
No, I wouldn't say either of those, none of those extremes. I'm more of a casual gamer myself, but I did do my time in the industry. So I've worked across sort of PC, mobile, console, everything, like the whole ecosystem. And a lot of the way that the products are built there is very different to kind of mainstream tech because I've done both tech startups, been my time in finance as you do it in the UK, and then managed to transition to games. And a lot of that journey was just looking at more like people psychology, consumer psychology, seeing how people interact in simulated worlds. Because that's essentially what games are, right? They're simulated worlds that allow you to escape the real world, but a lot of people like to escape into basically the same reality.
Yep.
So if you look at something like VR, when it first came out, the biggest games on that were things like VR Job Simulator. Like
Hmm.
people were like, I want to pay
I,
to go fishing, or I want to pay to go become an accountant in an office,
you know what I love?
right?
I love the truck driving games. Don't get me wrong. It's the weirdest thing in the world because all you do is sit in the booth, but love them.
Yeah. Yeah, there's just something about a very human experience that you're like, oh, I don't like if you're a knowledge worker, it's like, oh, what's it like to be a farmer? If you're a farmer, it's like, oh, what's it like to be an accountant? You know? We're just curious about the
Have you
things we
figured
don't.
out why we like that and why those games are so sticky?
I think it's because it's relatable, right?
Mhm.
Like whenever like growing up as a kid, you're in a classroom in a pretty much a very focused environment and you look around at the people, if we're in UK or Europe especially, it's like the jobs is mostly like office jobs or things like that. Sometimes you'll be exposed to people doing, carpentry or electrician work or like farmer work and you're like, I have a very set path based on schooling, based on education, where I'm going to go, university, etc. We're still curious about like what does everything else look like? And I think because it's just so easy to understand and because it's so present in your upbringing throughout, that curiosity kind of stays where it's like, oh, this is like a different life, but it's very understandable, right? Like it's something that you can actually relate to because you know people in those situations or know of them, and the awareness kind of breeds that. Whereas if you're looking more hypothetically, like a lot of the knowledge work, a lot of things we do on the internet is more hypothetical, it's a little bit more distant and less
Hmm.
human. And if we're looking at like the history of us being hunter-gatherers, all of that, it used to be more on sort of the busy work, being out in farms, etc. It's transitioned more to now, after the Industrial Revolution, everything towards more desk work, towards more knowledge work. But that's a very recent thing in human history. So like biologically, we're still kind of wired to
For the hunter
understand what
gatherer.
it's like to go outside. Exactly.
That's really interesting. When we think about a lot of the game mechanics that we use today, how do you think of it in the context of, well, Lychee?
Well, I think with what we're trying to do with Lychee is there's a huge gap where games doesn't always translate into tech very well, right? You have a couple of apps that have like blown up using gamification, things like Duolingo, using sort of the gaming elements to keep it sticky and engaged. But if you're looking at just mainstream tech, there's a big disconnect between how tech does things in terms of, there's still the same ecosystems with credits, with, things like ChatGPT, et cetera, all the AI stuff. But that monetization layer is just so weak compared to just how engaging it is in a game. And
Hmm.
so we want to bring some of those game loops that make it fun to play these games, that make it like a good escape for people, and also allow them to like build communities or have fun with it, and bring that to like actual tech like browsers, like chat, etc., where it's also fun for you as a user to engage it. I think that's one of the things that we're seeing, especially with on the consumer side with things like social media, with even ChatGPT and stuff, is they're not necessarily fun to engage with. They're very good at having that addictive loop because you're getting instant dopamine. But after you kind of go off it, you're kind of like, oh, I just spent like an hour looking through brain rot or something, right?
Hmm.
You don't feel good about it. Whereas I think when you're, a child or when you have that sense of play with building connections or with things you're interacting with, one is it's good for learning, and two is
Hmm.
it just makes it more engaging and more enjoyable for you. So you have a more positive experience with it. And so that's where we want to use sort of the gaming elements to have more positive interactions with mainstream technology that otherwise would go down towards brain rot or anything like that.
Would we? Are you coming at it from a preventative point of view where I want to prevent against brain rot, or is it I want to increase the amount of happiness I get for with every touch point of this application?
Bit of both, bit of
Right.
both. I think it depends on how users are going to interact with it at the end of the day, right? Like a
Uh-huh.
lot of this is going to be very based on people's psychology, and different like generations will interact with it in different ways.
Okay.
So like you're looking at the Gen Zs, they spend a lot of their times, for instance, on TikTok or something. Like the way they consume media is going to be very different to someone, say, in their 50s. And like we want to build something that will be applicable for all users. When we're looking at it, a lot of this also comes from the fact that when I'm looking at games, a lot of the ones I've worked on, you have your kind of mahjong and these kind of things, which are really good for like the older crowd. So you'll have touch points for, different gamification elements for the older crowd versus the younger crowd, where they're more like Roblox or Fortnite or like instant gratification. So it's like, what kind of reward loops can you build for the different user? And I think that's where AI comes in, is that it allows you to hyper personalize to the user's sort of habits, essentially. And a lot of what you do with gaming is you build habits, right? It's a
Hmm.
play to build habits. So it's play to build habits in a healthy way with the technology that we consume.
What what got you into gaming? Was it a specific
What was
game?
I, sorry?
What got you into gaming? Was
Um,
it a specific type of game? Are you a strategy guy? Are you an open world guy? Are you a racing guy?
I am a bit of everything. Like I'm a jack of all trades. Like I was a big weeb growing up, so all the Japanese shit was my jam for sure. But like even apart from that, I love narrative and I love like party games. Like I love playing with my friends. I love that feeling of, like I don't know if you play like Jackbox Party or you
I
had Among
haven't.
Us back in COVID days. Really fun games. It's like a great way to just bond with people, right? And then on the other side, just cinematic narrative fun games. You look at your Uncharted or your Final Fantasies, that kind of thing. I've always enjoyed that. I think it's also just like the creativity that goes into it, right? Like it lets you imagine and be part of a different world.
Hmm.
I think books and like film have also been very big for me, very big on media in general. But looking at it in games, you get to be the protagonist. You get to actually experience this world. You get to interact with it. Like it almost feels like a living, breathing like system, essentially, that you're following the story through, and you go through that hero's journey, right? And I think it's just done in a condensed way, whereas like films do it in 2 hours, TV shows do it in like 10 episodes or something. A game, usually we're talking you minimum 5 hours to as much as a couple of 100 hours, and then even longer if you're looking at MMOs. So it's just very good for different engagement for stories. I wasn't at the online side personally, but that is really where I think the growth has been in the last few years and where it's continuing to go,
You must
especially on
have
the
loved
mainstream.
sort of the advent of Fortnite when it came into mainstream, out of the just building forts at night, and sort of being able to play online. How does it work? How do game mechanics work in that compared to your traditional single player games?
Well, I think a lot of what happens with things like Fortnite or live ops games, right? It's sort of the coin term in gaming is games as a service. So it's
Right.
like if you look at SaaS as a service, like software, this is games as a service, which is like Fortnite, Roblox, even most of your mobile games. And what that does differently is you had things like instead of subscriptions, they had seasons, right? It's more just the constant like content loop that they keep adding. I
Hmm.
mean, you produce content, you understand this. It's like, you need to have more content, you need to see what sticks. People's sort of preferences change, the sort of, I guess, pop culture changes, right? So like
Yep.
right now, for instance, Fortnite has announced a collaboration with K-pop Demon Hunters because that's like everywhere in the world these days with Netflix. So it's little things like that, being able to capitalize on what's happening out there, how people engaging, what kind of mechanics can you try. You have to keep reinventing the wheel like you do with content and make sure that you're bringing up new game modes, new features, new ways for users to come in and still feel like they're having fun. Because the worst thing is when, a platform gets stale and you're just like, oh, I'm kind of bored.
But
And
do you
consumers are
not feel
like,
like that always happens with every platform? There will always be a bit of it where it sort of just plateaus out for a bit, and then people come back to it because they've got out of the sync of those game mechanics and the feedback loops.
yes and no. Yes and no. I mean, that's the thing, right? Like that's how old technology worked a little bit more. If you're looking at
Okay.
games or things, like it became very heavy with nostalgia, right? Like now everyone's doing remakes and bringing
Remakes,
out new movies based on
reruns,
stuff.
it's all the same thing.
Exactly. So it's like it comes back in pop culture like 10 years later and you get the nostalgia hit and then you share it with like your kids or like your cousins or whoever, friends. Whereas what these games are doing, because it's live ops, is they change the style of the game as well. So that's why you have different, and that's where it comes in from building relationships within these games. That's why the
Hmm.
community element's so big, right? It's like if you and your core group of friends go out to the pub to drink every day in London, you're going to keep doing that over time. It's like maybe try a different pub, but you'll still do the same activity. And it's the same if you and your friends are playing a session of Fortnite every week, and that's your main sort of bonding mechanism because some of these people are halfway across the country or halfway across the world. You're still going to keep doing that. Maybe you'll try a different game mode. Maybe you'll play something else, or a new season will come up, some new flashy thing will come up. And that's where the content loop is really important in giving people new content to play through and new mechanics to try out, right? And that's where it's like a very heavy experimentation. Like if you're looking at Fortnite and looking at games in general, they're very expensive to develop, especially for live ops. You got like hundreds to thousand people just working on this. You have entire studios being built on things like Roblox that are actually sustaining themselves. Like there's kids now who are millionaires because they built games on Roblox, right?
It's
Like that
crazy, isn't
exists.
it? It's absolutely like the ecosystem that has been built on top of these platforms is insane.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think it's going to show just the transition that we've had in the last couple of decades, where, social media was a very new thing in the 2000s that evolved to kind of more online engagement interaction. And now when we're looking at a lot of these games platforms, they have become a new form of social media for sort of the younger generation. A lot of the digital interaction, a lot of like having that digital identity in life is so important. Like the avatar is your persona in this very real and living world to a lot of these people. And so for them, when they go and they present this, it's a lot more just about how they perceived in that world, because that's another persona that maybe, you can live in when your real life isn't as good, or when you just want to go and have something else as a little bit of escapism. Like that's how we interact a lot with social media anyways. So this is just a more interactive way of doing that.
I want to know, why is GTA like the game everyone loves? Why is it consistently every time it comes out just an incredible game to play? Have you figured it out?
No, no, I can't say I have. Like I will say I'm not a big GTA stan
I'm
myself.
not a big
Like
GTA stan myself either, but like we're gearing up for 6 and the world's going wild.
it's one of those things of, I think when you look at content or when you look at personalities, right? Like even if we're looking at exposing it to something like the tech world with Elon Musk, Sam Altman, all of that, it's like you almost deify the personality. And in a way, GTA has become that thing of like, there's so many memes, so many pop culture around the things that have come out of this game, especially with how long they've managed to stretch five, with all the content loops. And a lot of the creators that came into the space because it was a popular game before, over the last decade, GTA has just had like GTA, COD, like it's not just one franchise, right? It's like these staple franchises. They've had so much influence in terms of the exposure on YouTube, on sort of social media, in terms of the general sort of pop culture in the world, that it just kind of gets on the hype train, because you almost deify of like, oh, this is going to be like a game from these guys. Like they've produced all the other,
And then the
you
role
had,
playing on top of that, that's insane.
yeah, yeah. So exactly, it is just this thing of like they've created a really good ecosystem with a really good brand IP and brand value. It's like anything else, it just attracts that attention because it's almost got this mythical sort of
I can be
gamification
anyone.
around the
I
IP.
can do anything in the game. It's one of those ones.
It is partially also that. It's partially the fantasy, right, of being able to do whatever and not having repercussions that you can't necessarily do in the real world. So it definitely feeds the escapism thing. I think that's true for all its games. But I think it is more to the power of the IP that they've established as a brand, because it just sinks to so many people, right? So many people have grown up playing those games. So many people have a lot of attachments to it. And like when you get older, say you're starting to work or something, you still have nostalgia because this is like a 20, 30-year-old franchise. So you can be like, oh, I used to play GTA with my friends back in school. Six is coming out. I want to try it. I jump in for a session with the boys on five. So I think it is just from that element. And it's not just GTA, it's COD and all of these things as well. Like they all have this franchise staying power just built based on IP.
Did you ever play Fortnite?
I've tried it. I've tried it. I have tried it as part of the work, I guess, because I did have to work
Where
for
was your
a bit.
strategic
But
place to drop in?
I was more just like I like just being chaotic, so I just kind of go all over the place and just start. Like I was a very bad player. Like people would hate playing with me because I just go, I'm just going to grenade everyone, I'm just going to shoot randomly, I'm just going to kind of go and be a troll. That was the fun part. This is why I didn't last long in those games. Like people did not like playing with me. It was not very strategic, I'll say. That's why I stuck to my like mainstream games, which are like a bit more handholdy in the narrative, or playing with my friends in the party games because they can allow me to be a troll and not kill me for it. So
Love it.
it
I
was
used to love dropping into Tilted. I think it's where I've got my first win ever on Fortnite, and
oh
then ever
nice.
since then I've never played.
Fair enough.
Just
Fair
one
enough.
and done.
Exit on
Just
top,
like
right? Get out on
exit on
top. Get
top.
out
I
on
was like,
top.
that was it. The worst thing was I didn't even win on PS5 or PS4. It was mobile.
Nice.
When they had it on mobile, I just camped at Tilted.
Hey. I
Everyone
mean,
died.
it's all good. You made it. You won. You're a
Top
Fortnite champion.
Fortnite
Yeah.
champion, top of the world. when we look at AI today, then, right, you've obviously got this idea of the NPC getting blended into the game mechanics in the games today, but then like how those ghost interactions might work in the context of applications. How are you thinking about all of that?
So that's still a little bit more complicated on the game side. I don't think AI is at the point where it can have those kind of live interactions yet in games. There's
Why do you
engines and
say
people
that?
designing them. Partially hallucinations. Like you can do enough with text generation, but when you're looking at a game, right, like you've got this ecosystem where they're interacting with like real physics mechanics.
Hmm.
So it's a highly curated experience in some ways. And if you're looking at, I guess there's a difference in how people perceive AI and machine learning. When you're looking at games, you already have things like instances and generations where it's like a fixed variables and you will generate different maps based on these variables, like putting components together. So it's already a probabilistic determination of like RNG for like what a map will look like or what a world will look like. When you bring it to now AI, where AI is actually generating some of that content, that's where it gets a bit tricky because AI is not, especially when we're going that far into sort of physics simulations of it interacting with different particles or things like that within a space, where it's like AI is just not very good at being able to navigate like a game mode. If you look at it, so this is slightly different, but if you look at it on the security side, right? If you're looking at benchmarks and evaluations, one of the best ways to test how good a model is to put it into like these playing ecosystems where it
Hmm.
has to figure out the logic of the game it's playing and then play it and get to the win condition. None of the models right now can do that. Like none of them can do that all. There's like a whole sort of subculture around this. There's another system I'll have to look it up and send you
Because actually
sometime.
it's
But
the best way to test the models.
yeah, because it'll see is the inference, right? Because
Hmm.
what games require, what play requires is inference. It's like, what is the logic of this world or this ecosystem? How do you get to the win condition? And that inference isn't there because it's not something you can necessarily probabilistically determine because especially if it's a new system, you're not going to have anything that you can probabilistically determine from it. And a lot of the LLMs, language models, are just based on sort of text and a lot of simulations around there. So they're just not capable of at this point getting to that level of inference. I mean, that's where the whole stuff of general intelligence comes in, right? We're still not there yet. Will we get there? I don't know. Probably eventually.
So
Who knows?
you could break in, you could bake in NPC interactions, but as long as that LLM has context of what that interaction is, and so you could actually have a fluid conversation. But in the context
Yeah,
of it basically running the show in the
yeah.
game, you're saying that today we're not at that point. Maybe in
No,
5, 10 years time.
we're not exactly. We're not close to that yet. We're not close to that yet in terms of just how much goes into building this game, right? Because you need consistency in terms of like for dialogue, sure, you can get that and you can have different touch points. Like games already have this a lot of times. It's usually decision trees that people have curated.
Yep.
Um, AI can generate that well enough to this day that you can have dialogue and those interactions are fine, especially with NPCs giving them a little bit more life, more character. If we're talking about actual physics simulation of this NPC is an actual character beyond just an NPC, that can your sort of association with them is going to change based on just AI making this world and simulating it and changing it for every player's experience. I don't think we're there yet. We can probably get there eventually, but it is just going to the point of the tech isn't there to be able to simulate that within these systems, and especially because a lot of them are gate kept with things like Epic or Unity owning the ecosystems, right? In terms of development ecosystems, and how games are curated. Um, it's a little bit easier in the PC ecosystem, but definitely harder if you're looking at more mainstream like console and that kind of thing.
And so, how do you apply that thinking to what we're going to do at Lychee Labs?
So we're not building really intense games
Hmm.
at Lychee Labs. Like we're not going to become a game studio.
Hmm.
What we want to do is use some of those mechanics. If you look at things like mobile in terms of how they do for like things like customization, leaderboards, look at like Duolingo as a really good example of a sort of learning education app that has a lot of gaming elements. So it's like a game, but the output is learning. So we want to use more games as like a psychological underpinning to allow you to have fun with like how you interact with your browser, how you look at like communication development and how you're chatting with people. Like what does that look like? And that'll be systems like leaderboards. That'll be systems that gamify some of these elements. And sure, you'll have like more playful things like personality tests that are, say, more gamified to be a bit more engaging or voice-based. So you have like a voice-based text adventure and it'll show you your thinking pattern based on how you're communicating with the story and how it's evolving with you. I think for me, a lot
That's
around
actually quite
product
interesting.
building.
Also, it also feels very much like I have train of thought, and I can actually see that train of thought, almost like the scratch board of
Yeah,
the LLM,
exactly.
but just for
Exactly. I mean,
me.
that's how, no, exactly. That's exactly how I like to use LLMs already. Like if I have my own like notebook LLM on my own personality to search about my thoughts. So it's things like that where you can kind of gamify and get game psychology, like psychology of how a person is, but through games where they're a little bit more, I guess, vulnerable. They're open to being more of their true self because they are playing and they're engaging in something that feels a bit safer, a bit more enjoyable. And so that just kind of makes you a little bit more comfortable, right? It's like when you're a kid and you're playing in a playground with other kids, you don't have all these thoughts about what could go wrong, embarrassment, shame, like anything like that, right?
You
You're
just
just
play.
there playing in the moment. And so it's bringing that play in the moment that you're like, and this is why things like Wordle, all these little things became so big, is because you're just in that moment, you have this mini point of joy that you're just sharing with people. And that's where the game side comes in, is building those little mini games and little structures that will allow you to be more comfortable with the technology, be more yourself. And so it'll be able to kind of tailor to you more specifically because you're kind of showing your subconscious mind as much as more your conscious side.
How do you think this changes how we interact with products?
I think a lot of it just allows them to be more design specific for the user.
And so
So
we push in this era of like hyper personalization.
exactly. Like if you're looking at games, if you're looking at mobile and stuff, everything is hyper personalized to the user. Like they do so many tests on each user subset in terms of what kind of offers do they see, what kind of game modes do they see, what unlocks are they going to get, what's going to keep them coming back tomorrow,
But
right?
I don't know about you, Jay, but I feel like it's like there's still a missing link
In terms of what?
in terms of it is hyper personalized to my interactions
Yeah.
inside of that relevant product, inside that relevant ecosystem.
Yeah.
But it's not like it doesn't culturally get me.
Not yet. I think part of that comes with integrations. That's why we're building sort of a multiple avenue approach with Lychee Labs, where we want to have it be more of an ecosystem, where your profile will kind of transfer across the different products that we're doing, and so it will kind of engage in who you are, like as Viraj, within your ecosystems, within social, within your ecosystems on the platform, and what does that look like? That's also kind of what I see something like ChatGPT with like OpenAI. That's what they're building, right? Especially now with
Yeah.
allowing you to do sales funnel and things like that. It's very much about understanding the user. So your chats with ChatGPT, they'll be able to hyper-personalize the style that it should speak to you with. And then from that, you start giving it your calendar, you start giving it your sales stuff, you give it money, it'll go basically run your life for you. And that's kind of where we're getting to, is that does it in a more corporate kind of way, which is less fun in my mind. We want to do it more fun, where it's just like, okay, at least you're enjoying your time here.
I
And I
think
think that's where,
I don't know about you, but I like Grok has come about it from a different way, or X and Grok have come about it from a
yeah,
different angle, very much the same flavor, but completely different like way of getting to that goal. We're going to use social and the ability to interact and ask
yeah,
questions with it as a way of learning you so that you can then go do things.
yes, no, 100%, 100%. I mean, there is, because they also have the chatbots. I mean, there's a lot of other similar systems that are coming up. Like you've got, character AI where people just talk to their favorite characters. And now you've got, the waifus on Grok and stuff. But it is an interesting sort of problem. I think it gets very dangerous when you go too far into therapizing or going to the psychology of people. Like, I don't think the AI models are at a point right now where they can't hallucinate. And so there is definitely a sort of more
Like
actual security concern.
they are still very probabilistic.
Yeah. So it's how much are you actually getting from what they're telling you, right? Like these are still built on a lot of bias because LLMs, just by, at least in my mind, just by what they are, is basically the baseline of all humanity, right? That's what it is. And so it integrates all the biases, all the things that it's been trained on. And that's what you'll still get in your outputs. So I don't think that those models are at a place, at least yet, where unless you know how to use them, unless you know how you can kind of distance yourself from it, you should take it as gospel of this is my personality, or this is what it is. I think it's a very good touch point in having a reflection point, right? It's very good at trying to underline and understand what it is, but I don't think it's something that you take as gospel of like this is be all and all and all.
Look, last question before we let you go. Who's top four on the Mount Rushmore of founders for you?
Mount Rushmore founders. Ooh, that's a tough one. I really like Brian Chesky, CEO of
Of
Airbnb. I
course, that
think
flavor of design.
design is a big component for me. I think when we're coming, especially to consumer, that's really where things are going to stand out. Design is a big thing, and yeah, like I also saw his founder mode speech. There was a whole thing around that, so that was
Thoughts
really
on
cool.
founder
Like I
mode?
think he's
What does that mean to you?
um. I think it depends on who you are because obviously that rubs different people the wrong way. I like to build things. I am, I guess, in this word, a polymath in terms of I just like doing a lot of different things. I can't necessarily see myself giving that up. And so, especially at scale, especially when you're building things, I still want to be in that space of curiosity and discovery and learning, and from that, growing the things that I'm building. So for me, it's more just around a lot of founder mode is just having that curiosity sustained and still having sort of the passion for the vision and building towards that, even with all the noise that surrounds you, especially as you grow. Um, and what that looks like, I don't know yet. I'm not at that stage
Work in
of giving up
progress.
ownership of my things, so we'll see. But for me, it's just that I just hope to have that curiosity intact, that I will still be curious and still be building things when I'm 50, 60, 70, whatever.
Okay, who the other
Um,
three on the list?
The other three on the list, there's one that I really like, not traditional CEO, but Dr. K. He's a YouTuber.
Hmm.
He speaks a lot about, so he's a Harvard trained psychologist, but then he's also sort of done monk training in India, studied from that side. So he blends sort of Eastern, I guess, techniques in terms of spiritualization, meditation, all of that with a lot of more common like science talk in terms of being a half trained psychiatrist. And he talks about a lot of the kind of modern issues that we have around social media addiction, gaming addiction, and a lot of these things, and like gender roles, etc. I think his sort of YouTube channel, the content he produces is very nuanced, and the community he's building is really cool. So I find that very inspirational. Other one I also really like, this is more from just a couple of books, I guess. I really love Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference, his agency, his sort of approach to negotiation, approach to storytelling. I think that's a big component. And also Simon Sinek, again, from the storytelling angle, looking at a different approach to not just positivity, but like in terms of human interaction. And so for me, a lot of the common thread would be around how do people tell stories and how does that shape the human experience? Because I think that's really what sticks with us at the end of the day. And all of these
People buy
people are
from
very good at doing
people.
that.
You're in the world of gaming. You're obviously interacting with people, especially if you're playing
Yeah,
those open games, online games. Sorry, and so it's a community. It's a community platform at the end of the day, right?
100%, 100%. Um, and all that comes down to is just how good is the story that you sell to each other? How addictive is it for you? Like, how does it get you engaged? Does it pique your interest?
And
So
that is a beautiful way to end this segment.
that's how it's gonna
That
be.
was that,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and we wrap up the show like that. Jay, thanks so much for the time. It's been awesome talking gaming with you. Thanks so much.
You too, Viraj. Thanks for having me. It's been a lot of fun.
Ciao.